Donald Trump kicks the stimulus back to Congress and says, "Give me more, I need more." Sidney Powell is out of the Trump legal team and is barred from talking to the current president. Ilhan Omar has some fiery words for her fellow squad members because they went out and took the vaccine. Dr. Birx is out, and Trump may be subject to Twitter rules after he's not the president anymore. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar. There is so much to get to today. It's like CNN is going out. Excuse me. Oh, I sound like Biden. Coughing my way through the entire speech here, but we will get through the speech. It's like CNN is trying to figure out what they can script onto this new reality show to sell the most commercials possible, and this one might be the one to do it. This might be the one that glues people to their televisions and says, hey, you better watch this shit because you don't know what's going on. And we will get into all of that, including 2 snippets of Trump speeches. One on the stimulus and one on election interference. It is going to be all of that and more today over on Contemporary. But before we get into any of that, head on over to freedomscoop.com. Freedomscoop.com is going to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs, carrying great shows such as Contemporary, The Generational Gap, The Daily Ignoramus, The Freckles and Brit Show, The R-Rated Conservative, and The Breakdown with Birkenhoff. Come on over there, pick up some of our swag, and help us support great creators. Help us boost people up. Go over there, check out all of our shows too, because they're all great guys, and we've all got different outlooks on things. I mean, I was just thinking about this. We have philosophy shows, we've got news shows, we've got commentary, politics, everything that you could ever want over there. And if you can't seem to find the particular show you're looking for, let us know and we'll see if we can find a way to integrate it in. All right, looking at the stocks. IBD, by the way, is out officially from my lineup, which blows because they're actually probably one of the most authoritative sources for the stocks news that we're looking at. But they keep throwing this at, they'll go up and they'll let me look at the article coming up and leading up to everything, and just about the time I go live, they'll throw up that, whoa, you must be behind the paywall to read this. So they won't do it immediately. So I'll actually go in and start looking at it, and then it's just boom, the paywall shit is up, and I can't keep closing that out right after we go here. But it looks like we had a pretty solid downward trajectory on the stocks. Possibly because nobody's satisfied with these $600 checks. It looks like the futures are looking better, probably because the Donald came back and said, give me more, give the people more, okay? But yeah, just a downslide as people realized how much the upper 1%, who most of which are sitting in Congress right now, have fucked them with this $600 bullshit. And like I said, I am going to cut mine up and send it back, but I'd like for people to have the choice because there are people that are struggling. Yes, cutting the check up is the best option for me. But I want people to have the option. All right, since we have no IBD, look into CNBC then instead and see what they have to say about this. Stock futures rise even after Trump slams COVID stimulus bill, from Yoon Lee and Maggie Fitzgerald. U.S. stock futures edged higher early Wednesday, largely recovering from earlier declines after President Trump expressed concerns about the new COVID-19 relief package, which could delay the deployment of funds to struggling Americans. Dow Jones Industrial Average futures rose 70 points, or 0.2%. The implied an opening gain of about 75 points. S&P 500 futures climbed 0.2%, and NASDAQ 100 futures gained 0.1%. Late on Tuesday, Trump called the $900 billion COVID relief bill an unsuitable disgrace and admonished lawmakers to alter the bill's contents, especially the amount allocated for direct payments. I just lost my place. There it is. Trump did not threaten to veto the legislation, but he asked to be sent a suitable bill, or else the next administration will have to deliver a COVID relief package. So, basically, would that be the pocket veto, where he doesn't come out and sign it and say, vetoed, send it back? Or he just hangs on to it until basically it expires. President Trump's demand for revisions to the COVID relief bill to raise the individual payments to $2,000 significantly raises uncertainty for the days ahead. But our base case remains that the bill passed by Congress will become law, wrote Ed Mills of Raymond James overnight. The bill becomes law on January 3rd without any action taken by the president, although a government shutdown occurs if the bill is not signed by December 28th. Congress passed the rescue bill this week with $900 billion in pandemic aid after months-long negotiations. The package includes additional jobless benefits, more small business loans, direct payments of $600, and funds to distribute COVID-19 vaccines, among other provisions. On Wednesday, Pfizer and BioNTech announced a second deal with the U.S. government to supply an additional 100 million doses of their jointly developed COVID-19 5G radio tracker vaccine. The deal brings the total number of doses to 200 million, which will be delivered to the U.S. by the end of July of next year. On the data front, U.S. jobless claims totaled 803,000 during the week ending December 19th, better than an estimate of 880,000 according to economists polled by Dow Jones. However, personal income and personal spending both fell short of expectations in November. You don't say. Almost 1 million new people filed for unemployment, and personal spending went down. Weird! It's so weird how that works. In the previous session, the Dow shed 200 points and the S&P 500 slipped 0.2%. For its third straight day of losses, travel-related stocks came under pressure amid lingering concerns about the new coronavirus strain from the UK. Well, make sure you don't overreact to this because maybe you need to go down to Chinatown and get your wet market food, okay? The Nasdaq Composite was the outperformer on Tuesday, closing up 0.5% at a new record as Apple jumped nearly 3%. Crapple. The small cap benchmark Russell 2000 also hit a record high, more than doubling their March lows. So it's looking like the stocks are going up because people are looking at this and saying, okay, people might get more. That's what it's looking like at this point. I don't know where this is going to go, but we're coming into Christmas. I don't know if the markets are going to be open tomorrow. I don't know if they're going to be open today, to be completely honest. So we might not see any change in stocks or futures until next week. But we will see what happens with that as we move along, as we see. And let's get into the big news. First, listening to this, or at least a portion of the speech. We're not going to go through the whole 10 minutes of it. But let's go ahead and listen to the Donald and see what it is that he has to say about the COVID relief.
Throughout the summer, Democrats cruelly blocked COVID relief legislation in an effort to advance their extreme left-wing agenda and influence the election. Then, a few months ago, Congress started negotiations on a new package to get urgently needed help to the American people. It's taken forever. However, the bill they are now planning to send back to my desk is much different than anticipated. It really is a disgrace. For example, among the more than 5,000 pages in this bill, which nobody in Congress has read because of its length and complexity. It's called the COVID Relief Bill, but it has almost nothing to do with COVID. This bill contains $85.5 million for assistance to Cambodia, $134 million to Burma, $1.3 billion for Egypt and the Egyptian military, which will go out and buy almost exclusively Russian military equipment. $25 million for democracy and gender programs in Pakistan. $505 million to Belize, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, and Panama. $40 million for the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C., which is not even open for business. $1 billion for the Smithsonian, and an additional $154 million for the National Gallery of Art. Likewise, these facilities are essentially not open. $7 million for reef fish management, $25 million to combat Asian carp, $2.5 million to count the number of amberjack fish in the Gulf of Mexico, a provision to promote the breeding of fish in federal hatcheries, $3 million in poultry production technology, $2 million to research the impact of down trees, $566 million for construction projects at the FBI. The bill also allows stimulus checks for the family members of illegal aliens, allowing them to get up to $1,800 each. This is far more than the Americans are given. Despite all of this wasteful spending and much more, the $900 billion package provides hardworking taxpayers with only $600 each in relief payments. And not enough money is given to small businesses, and in particular restaurants, whose owners have suffered so grievously. They were only given a deduction for others to use in business their restaurant for 2 years. This 2-year period must be withdrawn, which will allow the owners to obtain financing and get their restaurants back in condition. Congress can terminate it at a much later date, but 2 years is not acceptable. It's not enough. Congress found plenty of money for foreign countries, lobbyists, and special interests, while sending the bare minimum to the American people who need it. It wasn't their fault. It was China's fault, not their fault. I am asking Congress to amend this bill and increase the ridiculously low $600 to $2,000 or $4,000 for a couple. I am also asking Congress to immediately get rid of the wasteful and unnecessary items from this legislation and to send me a suitable bill, or else the next administration will have to deliver a COVID relief package, and maybe that administration will be me, and we will get it done. Thank you very much.
Maybe it'll be me because it's fraud, okay? Except, Susan, there is no fraud out there anywhere, and this was all totally above board. I mean, I don't agree with the fact that he wants to go out and throw money at people because, as you guys are saying in the chat, we do need to just go back and open the economy back up at this point. But once again, I want people to have the option to say, no, I don't want to contribute to the debt. Cut this motherfucker up. Because otherwise my children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren at this point aren't going to be paying for this goddamn thing. I want people to have that option so that the ones that are starving can get the relief that they need. The ones who are so far behind in their rent can get relief that they need. And most of the people, who shouldn't be as greedy as some of them are, but most of the people can come back and say, you know what? I worked this whole time. I don't need this. And yes, cut some of this shit out of there. They give this massive spending package with only a couple hours to read it. I mean, when AOC and Rand Paul are agreeing with shit, you know you got a problem. And that's going on to the Omnibus bill. That's not talking about the relief bill. Fish restocking hatcheries does not go in a relief bill. That should be in your regular spending bill. That should be a local area issue anyway, but, we can bicker about the politics right now. Let's just shut the government down at this point. And there was another one, too, that really caught my interest. I wish I would have grabbed the tweet when I found it the first time, but I didn't think to screenshot it at the time. But there was one that I saw earlier today that if unemployment is above X amount, and I would give it 5%, I think the original poster said 4%, but if unemployment is above 5%, for any reason whatsoever, no foreign aid should go to any other countries. We should be using the money as tax incentives and budgetary incentives to help develop more business in this country. And that's a good idea. That is a damn good idea. Because we looked through everything yesterday, and I've got everything saved. I know Ron had asked me why I don't close the tabs when I get done with them, but it's because I use them for the Red Net Show. I have all of those tweets saved where we can sit back and look at all the money that went to Israel, Burma, Egypt, the Sudan. Right now, with our economy having shrank 35%, none of that money should be going out there. We should be using that for infrastructure, for jobs. If the government's going to have the money, and I don't agree with them having the money to begin with, but if they've already got it, then spend the shit here, where we need it. And yes, if you're going to send the money out, take some of that shit that's going into counting fish in the Gulf of Mexico and use that to pad and help the families that need it. So, that's what we're seeing from that here. Let's keep going. We've got some news articles to go with it. From CNBC, Trump calls COVID relief bill unsuitable and demands Congress add bigger stimulus payments, from Mike Callia. President Trump, in a stunning nighttime tweet, called the $900 billion COVID relief bill passed by Congress an unsuitable disgrace and urged lawmakers to make changes to the measure, including bigger direct payments and to individuals and families. Trump also suggested that his administration might be the next administration, despite his loss to President-elect Joe Biden, because it's NBC and they've got to put that shit right in there. Editorialize it, in spite of the fact that we've got more court cases coming. The massive 5,593-page relief measure passed by Congress on Monday was negotiated in part by a senior Trump administration official. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin, Trump himself, had been absent from the talks since before the election. Lawmakers went home for the holidays after passing the bill. The president's Tuesday night tweet, which included a video of him discussing what he considers the bill's many flaws. This bill has got many flaws. Many flaws. Flaws on both sides. Many sides, okay? There are very fine points in this bill on both sides. Including funding headed overseas came less than 24 hours after the Senate passed the measure. The foreign aid provisions are part of a $1.4 trillion measure to keep the government funded, which was paired with the COVID relief bill. Trump did not threaten a veto in the video, and he had been expected to sign the legislation into law along with the bill to keep the government open. The legislation passed both houses of Congress with veto-proof majorities. Yeah, but he can still pocket veto that shit. I think that's a part of the reason that he didn't veto it, because they can go back and they can do the override, because we've got 2/3 of Congress that's ready to go up and spend your money and give you the crumbs. Except they're not crumbs, because Nancy Pelosi negotiated this. It's not like the tax cuts that got the average working family $1,900 back. That was crumbs. The $600, this is what you need to keep going amidst the pandemic and the government shutting your business down. Let them eat cake. And we watched the video already. I'm asking Congress to amend this bill and increase the ridiculously low $600 to $2,000 or $4,000 for a couple, Trump said in the video. In another jarring twist, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, one of Trump's arch enemies. Really? That's the word that you want to use for this? Right there. That's what you want to use for this. This is a reality show. This is what it does. It's all reality TV at this point. Agreed with his call for $2,000 payments. Democrats are ready to bring this to the floor this week by unanimous consent. Let's do it, she tweeted. And we will talk a bit about that too, because I've got that up here. Because I know you guys are going to love hearing from the Crypt Keeper on this one. House Democrats, who hold a majority in the chamber, will seek to see if they can pass a measure for $2,000 direct payments by unanimous consent, Thursday, Christmas Eve, according to senior Democratic aide, House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer did not specify the day, but said in a tweet that the vote would happen this week. Well, we are running out of this week in a hurry. By the way, just to remind everybody, we will be doing a call-in show on Friday. I'll be doing it from my parents' house, which means at the end of today, I've got to get myself a bug-out bag ready to go so I can throw my laptop and a microphone and a webcam in it so I don't have to come back here after work. Which I'm planning on not coming back here after work, so I'm just going to go up on Thursday. We will be doing contemporary on Christmas Eve. Maybe not as heavy on the news. Maybe we'll do some Bible reading. But Friday, I got to reach out to Stephen Ignoramus yet and see if he'll come on and do a devotional for me. Because, I feel if I do the prayer, lightning might strike me down where I live or where I sit. And I don't want to do that to my mom and dad's house. So we'll let him do it, if he agrees to do that. But otherwise, yeah, we'll be doing calls on Friday. So hopefully you guys can come in. I hope that you guys can't come in because you're spending so much time with your family. I hope I'm speaking to an empty room on Christmas Day morning. Because family comes first. Anyway, let's keep going on with the news. The House will be in a pro forma session, and it will only take one lawmaker to prevent its passage. It's not clear whether the larger direct payments would pass muster in the Senate. However, several Senate Republicans have resisted higher stimulus payments. Minority Leader Chuck U. Schumer urged Trump to sign the current measure, but said Democrats will be willing to vote for bigger stimulus checks. Well, yeah, of course, Democrats will do anything that they can do to spend money and keep people on the fucking government dole. That's not the name of the article. That's the title of the newspaper. Trump needs to sign this bill to help people and keep the government open, and we're glad to pass more aid that Americans need. Oh, that's not all he said. So let's actually read the tweet here. We spent months trying to secure $2,000 checks, but Republicans blocked it. Trump needs to sign the bill to help people and keep the government open, and we're glad to pass more aid that Americans need. Maybe Trump can finally make himself useful and get Republicans not to block it again. That's what I got to say to you, Schumer. Trump has done more in the 4 years while mired under investigations, while being impeached, than you've done in your entire career in the Senate. Trump can finally make himself useful. Pot kettle, Schumer. The government will shut down Monday if Trump doesn't sign the legislation. Please, pretty please shut the government down. Shut it down one more time, because we're going to need some more material on this reality show review that I do on Monday. So, that's what we're seeing up off of this here. Let's keep going. Rand Paul got into the news, and we'll listen to just a little bit of this. Rand Paul's Senate floor speech against COVID-19 bill goes viral. Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky addressed the Senate Monday afternoon, and his colleagues prepared to vote for a $900 billion coronavirus relief package, and told his fellow Republicans who backed the stimulus that they are no better than Democrats they criticize who align themselves with socialism. That's fair. To the so-called conservatives who are quick to identify the socialism of Democrats, if you vote for this spending monstrosity, you're no better at all, Rand said. Let's listen to a little bit of this.
Republicans like to mock modern monetary theory, the idea that government can print money with impunity, that government can spend whatever it wants without the need to tax. Modern monetary theory is basically the Dick Cheney deficits don't matter crowd, trussed up with a new fancy title.
While we're watching the video, I want to remind Quest pop on over to the YouTube or the D-Live there, because everybody's saying good morning to you, but as far as I know from Periscope, you can't see it. But yes, everybody is acknowledging you over there, and they're saying good morning to you.
Most Republicans rightly lampoon this quackery. That is, when they're not practicing the quackery themselves. Today, many of these same Republicans will vote for a bill that makes modern monetary theory look like child's play in comparison. The monster spending bill presented today is not just a deficits don't matter disaster, it is everything Republicans say they don't believe in. This bill is free money for everyone. Proponents don't care if you're fully employed or own your own house or own your own business. Free money for everyone, they cry. And yet, if free money were the answer, if money really grew on trees, why not give more free money? Why not give it out all the time? Why stop at $600 a person? Why not $1,000? Why not $2,000? Maybe these new free money Republicans should join.
It's ironic that he's saying that because that's exactly what Trump is pushing for, is 2,000.
Join the everybody gets a guaranteed income caucus. Why not $20,000 a year for everybody? Why not $30,000? If we can print up money with impunity, why not do it? The Treasury can just keep printing the money. That is, until someone points out that the emperor has no clothes and that the dollar no longer has value.
All right, we're going to cut that one at that. But yeah, I mean, he's absolutely right. And that's the reason. That is the reason. I know people laugh at me over the fact that, well, yeah, you went off and cut up free money to own the libs. Ha 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 ha. Well, that's the exact point of it right there. And that's what Rand Paul is putting out there. Yes, I cut it up because they don't have the money to cover it. And yes, I will be turning my tax return this year over to my attorney to go back and file a suit against the government if there are penalties for it because I didn't receive the funding. They can't penalize me for the funding that I didn't receive. Now, it will... let me rephrase that because I've actually read the tax code for next year already. This will not turn your refund negative. It'll just take out of whatever refund that you have. So because I generally pay in a small amount every year to the federal government, this actually technically is free money to me, but there's nothing in the Treasury to back it up is the problem. There is nothing in the Treasury there unless we go back and have the money printer go burr again. But once again, I want people to have the option because there are people who are genuinely struggling, who are genuinely having a problem. They're about to lose the roofs over their heads. I mean, look at what happened with the RAS because of all of this, because people couldn't go to work and they couldn't pay the rent after they've already lost their house and were able to stay living in it after an investor bought it. And they closed off blocks of Portland over this. I understand the struggle, and I do know that there's a danger sitting there of what would happen if the housing market crashes again. There's got to be a balance, though, and we can't inflate the dollar to worthlessness to save it. So we've got to figure out some sort of balance and open up the damned economy. Thank you, Rand Paul, for that. Tulsi Gabbard weighed in on all of this. Let's listen to what Tulsi had to say.
Hey, everybody. I just got back from having voted on the House floor on this massive spending bill. I voted against it, and I wanted to tell you why. First of all, this bill was over 5,500 pages long. We received the text of this bill at approximately 2:30 this afternoon, and we're told we'd have to go and vote on it just a few hours later. There is no way that anybody in Congress had the opportunity or the time to go through and read this bill to know exactly what was in it. I've been here long enough to see how provisions are snuck into these bills literally in the dark of night without any announcement, without telling anyone what is in it, and then rushed through in the manner that we have just seen tonight. This is the height of irresponsibility, and it is absolutely no way for the people's representatives to be able to represent the interests of the American people. The second thing is the central part of this bill was supposed to be about providing direct COVID relief to the American people who are struggling and who need help the most. This bill dished out hundreds of billions of dollars going towards special interests, going towards the military industrial complex, going towards foreign countries, meanwhile saying, here's what's left for you. You get $600. I'll tell you, in Hawaii, that in most cases won't even cover 25% of your rent. It is an insult and a slap in the face to every single American in this country who is struggling because of this COVID pandemic, who is concerned about not being able to pay the rent, about eviction, about whether you'll have enough to buy groceries or medicine for yourself or your loved ones. This bill is a representation of the screwed up priorities of Washington. It should be fighting for you and making sure that you, the American people, come first. This bill did not do that.
Thank you, Tulsi Gabbard. And yeah, I mean, it's just like what we heard from the president's speech. They come out and they give you the crumbs. Meanwhile, they're sending billions of dollars sometimes to overseas countries. What was it, like 1.7 billion went to Egypt? I can go back and look up all the stuff again because I've got it all filed over on the Red Ned Show document. But, I mean, billions of dollars to foreign companies. Meanwhile, you're only worth a little bit of money after the government has shut your business down. You're not even given the option to turn away a few grand. Here's $600. Shut your fucking mouth and get the hell out of here. So, that's what we're seeing from Tulsi. Thank you very much. From Newsweek. Bette Midler, Alyssa Milano, and other celebrities react to joke $600 stimulus check. From Emma Nolan. The belated and much negotiated $900 billion pandemic relief deal has been announced by Congress with $600 stimulus checks to be given to struggling Americans. The second round of stimulus checks come along with steps to improve unemployment benefits, as well as an extension on eviction moratoriums for renters. We can finally report what our nation has needed to hear for a very long time. More help is on the way. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said on the floor, "I hope we can do this as promptly as possible." Whenever the government says help is on the way, you are permitted to start to panic. The $600 checks will only go to those making less than $75,000 a year or couples making less than $150,000. However, the $600 has been deemed an insult and a joke by some. A number of celebrities have been reacting to the move, with several having harsh words for Congress's decision. Vocal anti-Trump actress Bette Midler predicted on December 19th that the stimulus bill would pass ahead of Congress taking their holiday break. Does anyone doubt that Congress will suddenly pass a COVID relief bill by this weekend so they get to go on their vacations? The Hocus Pocus star tweeted, followed by, "Told you so." Comedian Eva Victor added, $600, wowee, what will I do with? Okay, yeah, it's gone. Eva Victor, you have a blue check and you're an actress. I don't think you're getting $600. Political commentator Robert Reich described the check as an insult, tweeting, $600 is an insult to millions of Americans. Author Don Winslow added members of Congress were paid $130,000 to spend 9 months arguing whether you deserve $600. Activist Bernice King wrote, a Space Force, but $600 to aid the people during a pandemic. Yeah, we probably didn't need this. I agree with the purpose of the Space Force, but we probably didn't need to be spending that money right now. She then quoted her father, the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a nation that continues year after year to spend more money on military defense than on programs of social uplift is approaching spiritual doom. Or, the nation could just not spend money. Maybe. Charmed star Alyssa Milano was very blunt in her opinion of the check, tweeting, $600 is a fucking joke. Amber Tamlin, $600. $600 is what families get for the hell and death this year has caused. Shame on Mitch, shame on the Republican Party. Yeah, Nancy Pelosi had a hand in that too, you dumb bitch. And we go along with this. So the celebrities are going out there and telling you how outraged you're supposed to be by this. Let's keep going here. From the Daily Wire, after praising $600 checks as a significant, Pelosi appears to try and take credit for Trump wanting more, from Ryan Saavedra. Democrat House Speaker Nancy Pelosi appears to try and take credit for President Trump saying on Tuesday night that he wanted larger coronavirus stimulus checks for American citizens, which came after she praised the $600 checks as significant yesterday. Republicans repeatedly refused to say what amount the president wanted for direct checks, Pelosi wrote on Twitter. At last, the president has agreed to $2,000. Democrats are ready to bring this to the floor this week by unanimous consent. Let's do it. However, Pelosi yesterday praised $900 billion that gave out $600 checks to Americans as significant, which comes after she rejected a $1.8 trillion offer from the administration before the election that CNBC said included stimulus checks of $1,200 for adults and $1,000 per child. Pelosi's tweet was directed at a video that Trump tweeted out late on Tuesday evening that called for a significant increase in the size of stimulus checks for American citizens, which we watched the video. So yes, of course, Pelosi is going to be the one that comes up and tries to take the credit for this. See, it was my idea all along, because I think the American people need to have more, and they're rolling out the guillotine in front of my house, and I don't know what to do. So I'm just going to say that it was my idea to give them more money. Let's keep going. Another Trump video. By the way, Elephant Man, I can't see Super Chats with the setup that I have here, so that's why I'm not reading them. I can't see them at all from this display. That's why I'm not doing it to diss you. I can't see them. I can't. All right, let's listen to the Donald here, though, for a little bit. We're not going to go through the entire 10 minutes of this, but let's get some snippets of this. This is a statement on the election interference. Where's my volume?
Explain to you why I am, my fellow Americans. Today I want to explain to you why I am so determined to pursue every legal and constitutional option available to stop the theft of the presidential election. As president, one of my most solemn duties is to protect the integrity of your sacred right to vote. This year, using the virus as a pretext, Democrat officials in the key swing states illegally violated their own state laws in order to enable, encourage, and facilitate fraud on a scale never before seen in the history of our country. The truth is, we won the election by a landslide. We won it big. Today, I'm going to give you the facts that every American needs to know. Let's go back to the night of the election. By midnight, we had a commanding lead in the swing states. We won Florida by a record number of votes. We won Ohio by a record number of votes. And likewise, we won Iowa by 8.2%, far different than the false narrative portrayed in the media. We were up by 293,000 votes in Michigan, 112,000 votes in Wisconsin, 356,000 votes in Georgia, and nearly 700,000 votes in Pennsylvania, all swing states. These numbers were absolutely impossible for Joe Biden to overcome, and the Democrats knew it, and everybody forecasting knew it and understood it well. Our nation's greatest political professionals were calling to congratulate me on our victory. Then suddenly everything started to disappear. Everything started to change. The vote counting abruptly stopped in multiple states. In the middle of the night, a series of massive and statistically inconceivable vote dumps overturned the results in state after state. At 6:31 a.m., very early in the morning, Michigan suddenly reported 147,224 votes, 94% for Biden, 6% for Trump. At 4:42 a.m., Wisconsin reported 143,279 votes, almost all of them for Biden. A similar massive drop of ballots happened in Georgia at 1:34 a.m. Again, almost all of these votes for Biden. These gigantic and ridiculously one-sided spikes were miraculously just enough to push Joe Biden into the lead in all of the key swing states. These glaring anomalies are just the tip of the iceberg. We won 18 of 19 bellwether counties, a record, that have correctly predicted the winner of every presidential election for the last 40 years. We also won Ohio, Florida, and Iowa by historic margins, meaning Biden would be the first candidate since 1960 and only the second candidate in American history to win the White House while losing all three of those major states. And it wasn't even close. With Joe Biden at the top of the ticket, the Democrats lost 25 out of 26 toss-up House seats. That's a record. Democrats were projected to gain 15 seats, and instead, because of my success and coattails, as they call them, they lost 14 seats. So think of that. They were going to win big, and they ended up losing big. My campaign received more votes than any president in history. Almost 75 million people voted for me. We earned approximately votes than we got in 2016, the largest vote increase for an incumbent president ever recorded. I also received the largest share of non-white voters of any Republican in over 60 years.
All right, that's where I'm going to cut that one there. I'm going to have to fix the Restream bot at some point here because I'm looking over at my display and I just switched it over to DLive over here. And Elephant Man, you're not showing up in my on-screen display, so that'll be something I will have to go back and figure out why Restream is suppressing you off of this. But yes, I can see your stuff on my tablet, but I can't see it up on my screen at all. So that's interesting here. But going back onto the election, we're looking at a situation right now. We looked at this, and I've pointed this out numerous times. The cookie sales, because whoever gets the most cookies generally wins the election out of some bakery in Ohio. Whoever gets the most cookies from that wins the election. Whoever tends to win Ohio and Florida almost always wins the election. Whoever seems to get the most Halloween masks across the country tends to always win the election. Joe Biden overcame every single bellwether to come back and win the election. And of course, for the sake of Susan Wojcicki, this whole thing was completely above board, and there was no such thing as any fraud here, but I have a lot of questions. I have a ton of questions about this. The incumbency bonus, the fact that Trump got more votes in the primaries than any of the Democrats combined in the primaries. The enthusiasm gap, every single bellwether in the world, Joe Biden managed to overcome. So you'll forgive me if I have questions. And I'm not saying, by any means, Susan Wojcicki, that there was any fraud anywhere. All that I'm saying is, I have questions. Because there seem to be a lot of coincidences that went along with this election. I have questions. President Trump has questions too, and I think he's got the right to have the questions. So, honk honk. It's good that, and once again, this is a big one for me too, because throughout my entire life, even when I switched over to the neocon warmonger side of things and thought that was the only way to not be a Democrat, I looked over at this and I said, why are all these Republicans rolling over? We have a Republican in office right now that's not just rolling over and taking it. So, absolutely. Speaking of the election campaign and the campaign to overturn it, Sidney Powell says White House officials have blocked her from speaking to President Trump. From Breck Dumas over at The Blaze, attorney Sidney Powell says White House officials have barred her from speaking to President Trump, claiming the president's own people are misleading and undermining him. Excuse me. Powell told the Washington Examiner that her access to Trump has been cut off since Friday, when the president reportedly floated over the idea of appointing her to serve as a special counsel to investigate voter fraud, which was an idea shot down by some of his advisors. I haven't met or spoken with the president since Friday night, Powell told the Examiners. The president knows this election was stolen, but he's not getting the support he, the Constitution, and the Republic deserve, except the election was completely above board, Wojcicki. Honk honk. His own people are misleading and undermining him while protecting their own careers and agendas. She added, I haven't spoken with the DNI on these issues at all. My efforts to educate Trump personal attorney Rudy Giuliani on demonstrable foreign interference in the election, including multiple CISA and FBI findings, have been met with irrational hostility. I have been blocked by the White House counsel and others from seeing or speaking to the president since I raised the public formal findings and even more evidence of the foreign interference from Iran and China in this election. I want to see the documents. I don't care who is in the right at this point. I want to see the documents. But, of course, when you put out that big legal brief that is so riddled with typos you can barely read the goddamn thing, I have questions about Sidney Powell, too, so... More than a month ago, the Trump campaign publicly distanced itself from Powell after she alleged during a campaign news conference that voting machines were manipulated nationwide to flip the election for President-elect Joe Biden as part of a widespread conspiracy involving foreign powers. Yeah, I can't see why they didn't put this off there. And you shouldn't be on any lawsuit. And this was the same thing with the Tucker Carlson thing. Nobody should be expected to go on a news conference and lay down their whole lawsuit, and Sidney Powell kind of did. So now your defense, both on social media and in the courtroom, know exactly what it is that they need to do to try and get this changed back over and beat you at your own game. There's so much wrong with this at this point. Nobody knows what the hell is going on. And it's all just reality show politics. Let's keep going. Joe Biden says Hunter probe is Russian misinformation from the New York Post, from Ebony Bowden. President-elect Joe Biden said Tuesday that the federal tax probe targeting his son, Hunter Biden's murky financial dealings, is Russian misinformation, man, and called the reporter who asked for comment on the probe a one-horse pony. This guy is going to have the nuclear codes. Think about that. As he walked off stage after a press conference in Wilmington, Delaware, Biden was asked by Fox News if he still believed the Post's exclusive reporting on the contents of his son Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian misinformation, in the wake of reports that some of those damaging emails were part of the federal probe. Yes, yes, yes. God love you, man. You're a one-horse pony, I tell you, he responded. The Post in October revealed correspondence between Hunter Biden and his business associates, which showed him trying to land lucrative deals in China and Ukraine by trading off his famous father's influence, in some cases involving the elder Biden directly. During the press conference, the former Beep was pressed on whether he has spoken with potential candidates and his team about the investigation into his son's overseas business dealings. No, I guarantee you I'm not going to do what I said, Biden responded. The Attorney General of the United States of America is not the president's lawyer. I will appoint someone. I expect to enforce the law as the law is written, not guided by me. Biden is still yet to appoint someone to fill the high-level cabinet role, bucking recent predecessors, who had all named their Attorney General nominee by this stage in the transition. The incoming commander-in-chief said he was still working through it, and told reporters that there was still not an obvious choice on my mind. Hunter Biden confirmed earlier this month that he is under federal investigation for possible tax fraud. Outgoing AG Barr, who exits the job on Wednesday, said this week that he felt there was no need to appoint a special prosecutor to bolster the investigation into Hunter Biden's tax affairs. Yeah. Yeah, there should be a special prosecutor. I want to see some of this go out to the end. I really do. Especially considering the fact that Biden himself has... This isn't like Trump where he came out and said, I did nothing wrong, okay, and there's no reason to have this into me. Which I still think they should have investigated, to be completely honest, and I'm glad that they did. And I'm also glad that he didn't fire the special prosecutor, in spite of the fact that it was within his purview to do so. It is difficult for Joe Biden to fire a special prosecutor. He can do it, it's within his purview, but it's very difficult, and it's not going to go over well with the American people when they see it happen. So yes, they should have one there. But he can also get up there and fire all the regular prosecutors who are investigating this now. That's also within his purview, and it doesn't have nearly as much of political implications that go along with it. So, I want to see this one go to the end. I really do. I want to see what it is that's there, what comes out of it, and if there's nothing, there's nothing. But I'm also glad that, like I said, we looked through the entire Mueller probe. I read the Mueller probe cover to cover to find out that there was nothing. And everybody can go on with their day. So, we will see what happens with Hunter. Except that it's Russian misinformation. And you're a one-horse pony, okay? Let's see. From WNYTV 7 out of New York. Trump, classified material can be used in the Durham probe. This is via the Associated Press. The special counsel investigating the origins of the FBI's probe into the 2016 election now has the authority to use classified information indefinitely in his investigation, a procedural step following his earlier appointment, according to a memorandum issued Tuesday by President Trump. Outgoing AG Bill Barr named U.S. Attorney John Durham as a special counsel in the investigation into the origins of the FBI's probe into the 2016 election. You remember that's investigationception because it's an investigation into an investigation. And now Kamala Harris wants to have an investigation into the Durham probe, so it's an investigation into an investigation into an investigation. And yes, now Durham is going to have carte blanche, so we can look at some of the classified stuff that goes along with this too. I kind of like to see what happens with this, and I don't know what I'm expecting to come from the Durham probe. A lot of the stuff that's out there we already know, but I also kind of want to see it. Just see it to the end. More transparency in the government. All right, let's keep going. From the New York Post. Ilhan Omar slams lawmakers like AOC for shameful COVID vaccination. Broken clock syndrome. Also coming from Ebony Bowden. Progressive Rep Ilhan Omar on Sunday called it shameful that young, healthy lawmakers such as fellow squad members Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez are receiving the coronavirus vaccine before American seniors and frontline workers. No, Ilhan, remember? She's so brave and she cares so much about the American people. She cares so much about them that she jumped the line ahead of the frontline workers to make sure that she got the vaccination. She jumped the line to take one of theirs. The Minnesota Congresswoman has joined a growing number of lawmakers who have vowed not to take the Pfizer miracle drug out of concerns they are jumping the line. It's now clear we don't have enough vaccines for everyone, and there is a shortage of supply. We have to prioritize those who need it most, Omar wrote on Sunday. That's why it's disturbing to see members be first to get vaccine, while most frontline workers, elderly and infirm in our districts, wait. Broken clock. I mean, I've made it no secret that I think that this woman is clearly either a maniacal, masterminded witch or a complete idiot. But either way, she's right on this one. Cortez should not have been up there. It doesn't matter what the public face does to come out and say this. Cortez should not have been up there if there's that much of a shortage. And people are rushing up to get this. She should not have been jumping the line to get the vaccine first. Some people did some things. All right, let's keep going here. We got a few more things to do and not a lot of time to get there. This is from NPR. Trump grants a slew of pardons, including George Papadopoulos and Duncan Hunter. In our NPR voice, because we need to do the NPR voice, we need you to be able to be calm and fall asleep while you're listening to this. Because NPR, it's the subliminal messages that you need to carry forward. This is from Ayesha Resco. President Trump granted clemency to 20 people on Tuesday ahead of the Christmas holiday. Among the high-profile pardons are former Representative Duncan Hunter, who pleaded guilty to misusing campaign funds, and George Papadopoulos, a former campaign advisor who was charged in connection with Special Counsel Robert Mueller's Russia investigation. The move comes as activists have lobbied Trump to use his executive powers to help prisoners who are serving what they view as unduly long sentences. Before this latest batch, Trump had issued 28 pardons and 16 commutations during his time in office. Presidents traditionally have granted a large number of pardons and commutations before leaving office, especially when dealing with controversial cases. Trump is expected to follow that path, but he has not shied away from granting clemency in high-profile cases, even early on in his presidency, while Trump has pardoned a number of politically connected allies. He has also intervened in the cases of some people caught up in the war on drugs, those hit with the mandatory minimum sentences, often blamed for the exploding prison population in the past few decades. Give them all pardons. Get them all out of there. And of course, if we go by the Democrat model, and the model of people like, I don't know, Andy Cuomo, give them all pardons. Get them all out of prison so we got room for the people that won't wear the fucking mask, okay? Because you got to wear your mask. So, we will see what happens off of this one here. Those are some high-profile ones. Another high-profile one to come up off of this, from WIVB4 out of Buffalo, New York. Trump pardons former Congressman Chris Collins. The Federal Bureau of Prisons says Collins was released on Tuesday. President Trump has issued 15 pardons, one of them being for former Congressman Chris Collins. Collins used to represent New York's 27th congressional district, and it was more than 2 months ago he surrendered to a federal prison to begin serving a 26-month prison sentence following his guilty plea on conspiracy to commit securities fraud and lying to the FBI charges. In a release, the White House press secretary said this pardon was granted at the request of many members of Congress. Collins pleaded guilty to charges last year, as did his son, Cameron Collins, and his son's father-in-law, Steven Zarski, admitting he illegally gave his son an inside tip about a drug trial. Federal prosecutors said the tip allowed his son Cameron to save more than $500,000 in losses. When he made that guilty plea last year, Collins resigned from Congress. He said he knew what he did was illegal and he regretted his actions. Insider trading, white-collar stuff. I don't see a huge problem with this. And once again, we need to get rid of some of these laws where there's no real victim that comes out of this. Because if we have laws that just work with theft, murder, kitty diddling, rape, if those are the only laws that we have in the book, we don't need nearly as many police. We don't need nearly as many cops. And then we can stop having this militarized police force. You shouldn't be going to prison for insider trading. A fine for insider trading, I could see. A fine and restitution, that I could see. But prison, that seems to be a bit excessive. But you also shouldn't be going to prison for smoking a fucking joint. Mass distribution? Well, I mean, if you legalize it, then there's no crime for mass distribution either. So, yeah, let's get rid of some of this shit. All right, let's keep going here. From the Daily Wire. Swalwell hit with backlash over question about traitors, from Hank Berrien. Just before midnight on Monday night, Representative Eric Swalwell, who has come under public scrutiny over his alleged relationship with a Chinese spy, tweeted Monday, "Hate to ask, but if a member of Congress tries to overthrow the 2020 election, are they a traitor?" We don't need to go too far into this. Of course, because it's Eric Swalwell, and he's got all these progressive bots that follow him and NPCs that follow him. Of course, that was an overwhelming yes. But Eric Swalwell, you have no place to call anybody a traitor. All right? Oh, me, bang, 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 bang. Read the room. This is also the same guy that said that if gun owners in central U.S. don't turn over their guns, he's going to turn the nuclear arsenal after them. So just keep that in mind. And yes, it looks like a lot of people were on the same mind as me. Let's keep going. From the New York Post. Chris Christie considering a presidential run in 2024. Am I going to be late for work today because I have to tell you everything that's wrong with this neocon fucking warhawk cuck wanting to become the president again? I've been railing over the fact that Kamala is going to get us into another war. And this asshole is probably going to do it 10 times worse. Whatever 10 countries Kamala gets us into war with, Chris Christie can probably get us into 100 different wars across the country. No! You do not get yourself anywhere near the levers of government. Go retire, eat a bunch of lobster until your fat stomach explodes. Former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie is not ruling out a 2024 presidential bid, even if it means running against his old friend, Donald Trump, according to a report. I would not know, Christie told conservative radio host Hugh Hewitt on Monday, Fox News reported. I would not rule it out. Well, maybe you should. Maybe you should. If I go and look up Christie 2024, will that URL already be reserved? Hewitt asked. ChrisChristie.com is, sir, Christie answered. So we're going to keep that one and we'll see where it goes from there. I can give you a dozen reasons why this is a bad idea. But in the reality show that our American political system has become, this guy might be the heel to come out and drive more people back in to sell more commercials for CNN and the lamestream fucking media. From the Daily Wire, Trump will be subject to Twitter rules once he leaves office, the platform says. Yeah, he's getting banned. A report in the Wall Street Journal said Tuesday that, well, basically the same thing that we know already is going to happen. Indicates that Twitter plans to treat President Trump as a typical user once the president leaves office in January. No, they're not going to treat him like a typical user. Because of all the nasty things that other blue checks have said, he's not going to get away with any of it. He is going to have special rules made for him to make sure that they get him off the platform forever. And then he might go over to Parler. And then Twitter will circle the fucking drain. This is the best thing for Twitter to do right now. Just leave the same rules in place for President Trump when he leaves office. Do you know why? I'm going to tell you why. Twitter, before Trump, was circling the drain. You know it, I know it. Bacteria on Mars with a long enough telescope know it. Twitter was gone. It was going away. Because nobody gave a fuck about it. You were limited by characters and a few photos. And it was basically a way for you to cyberstalk your favorite celebrity. There was no other real purpose to it at all. Yes, Barack Obama was on it. And yes, he could go up and he could make a tweet. And it was a snappy slogan. And I got 1 million retweets and likes. But, you know, I had other platforms, and I had the mainstream media that would kiss my ass and lick my taint and put whatever I said up on the screen in the best possible light there was. But Twitter was circling the drain. And then the Donald came on. Well, he'd been on there for a while, but he came out and he said he was going to run for president. And the mainstream media tried to tell you that he was the most racist human being that ever lived. So, of course, everybody who believed in his message of, "Make America great! I have a new religion. It's MAGA. MAGA is my religion," got jumped on there. Added millions of users overnight to go in because they wanted to see the first thing that he had to say. And then, of course, a lot of people activated their deactivated accounts and got active on the platform again because they wanted to be the first one to come out and say, "Oh boy, he's going to say something racist. He's going to say something racist. Oh, he's going to say something racist. I'm going to be the first one to comment on it." You had all of these millions of users pour into Twitter. And yes, I think that if they want to shut their business down and go back to where they were in 2014, then yes, they should ban Trump off of Twitter. Because he'll go to Parler at that point. And then, all the people who have named MAGA as their new religion will jump over to Parler, which many of them are already there, and say, "Oh, Messiah, give us your wisdom. Give us your wisdom." And then all the people who are detractors of Trump, who have spent the last 4 years not having a personality, their only personality being "I hate Trump," will also flock over to Parler to say, "Oh my God, he's gonna say something racist. I'm gonna be the first one to comment on the racist thing that he said." And Twitter will continue to circle the fucking drain. So yes, absolutely do that. Absolutely kick him off. I want to see it. I want to see how you reflect and redo your business model after that. All right, let's keep going. From the New York Post. Joe Biden says fast immigration changes could cause 2 million people on our border. From Stephen Nelson. President-elect Joe Biden on Tuesday said that he would slowly reform U.S. immigration policies to avoid triggering a rush of 2 million people on our border. Biden confirmed reports that his team is nervous amid an already increasing number of immigrants, including children and families, being detained at the border since his election victory last month. Well, he won't be disturbed about it for very much longer because they're going to stop reporting it as soon as you're inaugurated. The cages will still be there. The detentions will still be there. It's just nobody will hear about it anymore. I've already started discussing these issues with the President of Mexico and our friends in Latin America and the timeline to do so. That we in fact make it better, not worse. Biden said at a press conference in Wilmington, Delaware, when asked about the rollout of his new immigration policies. "The last thing we need to say is we're going to stop immediately, the access to the asylum, the way it's being run now, and end up with 2 million people on our border." I don't know, Joe. That sounds kind of racist. Biden has promised to propose expansive amnesty legislation and to scrap President Trump's Remain in Mexico policy, which requires most Central American migrants to stay in Mexico while the U.S. reviews their asylum claims. I'm going to tell you right now, amnesty is not going to happen. Because Democrats love to have their fucking slave labor. They love their slave labor. They love people who are willing to work for $1 a day that can't complain to anybody because they might get deported if they do. Democrats love that shit. Democrats love slaves. They love slaves. They have. Since the founding of this country, Democrats love slaves. So no, he's not going to do anything to fix or give amnesty to anybody. He's going to lose all his big business buddies who are taking advantage of the people who are willing to work for $1 a day and can't go and complain to the authorities. None of that is going to happen. Let's keep going. From the USA Today, which for whatever reason has not slapped me for not having an ad blocker on. But we're going to roll with it. Protesters clash with police, smash glass doors, disrupt lawmakers on unnerving day at Oregon State Capitol in Salem. From Claire Withicombe and Virginia Berette. A special session of the state legislature disrupted Monday by protesters opposed to policies designed to slow the spread of the coronavirus. Protesters broke glass doors at the largely empty Capitol building, tore tarps from the marble reliefs on the front steps, and engaged in a brief standoff with Oregon State Police and Salem Police Department officers. Police made at least 4 arrests during the 6-hour rally that included more than 100 protesters, including members of the far-right Patriot Prayer group. They're getting restless and they're starting to get violent. You know, they didn't come out of the womb violent like Antifa did, but as more of the lockdowns start to come off, I got this feeling that they're going to start taking up Antifa tactics. They want to go back to work. They don't want to sit and depend on the government to provide everything for them, and they hate the fact that their businesses are going down. And this $600 slap in the face is probably just the powder keg spark that's going to set all this off. I hereby denounce the violence that's happening there, but I'm not surprised either. So that's happening up in Oregon, so it's not just Antifa now. But there again, the Patriot Prayer guys are against the local government, which I don't know why you don't just move at that point. That would be just me. And Antifa goes against the federal government and anybody who would dare not be Antifa. All right, just a couple more, then we'll do something I'm thankful for, and I'll go make some breakfast, and we'll all head on out of here. From the New York Post, Dr. Birx says she will retire after overwhelming holiday travel scandal. Good. Not a lot here. Dr. Birx said you shouldn't go and spend Thanksgiving with your family. Then she came out and said, oh, well, I had to go spend Thanksgiving with, 5 members of 2 households and go winterize, which I know Michael Knowles was like, whoa, I've never heard of this winterize thing. Yeah, you lived in fucking Los Angeles for your entire life. Those of us who live in cold climates know what winterizing is. When you winterize a home that you're not going to be in because it's a vacation home. I've worked at a campground. I've winterized campers and cabins numerous times throughout my life. Winterize is a thing. Whether or not you have heard of it because you sit up in your cushy fucking Los Angeles studio or movie studios for your entire career, that's on you. But winterizing actually is a thing. But, yep, she got caught and now she's going to retire. Bye-bye! Don't care. Last one. From the College Fix. Cornell student government members expel fellow senators who voted against disarming the police. From Joseph Silverstein of Cornell University. A vocal minority of the SA who believe everyone must think as they do have attempted to strip power from anyone who disagrees with them and browbeat them into silence. Activist members of the student government at Cornell University are waging an ideological war against fellow Cornell Student Assembly members who recently voted against disarming campus police. From launching recall petitions and rallying against their fellow representatives in November to earlier this month ousting some of them from subcommittees or the entire assembly, these activist student government members say they're motivated to set right what a white cis het group of their peers did in voting down the disarmament resolution. So there's not a lot to see here either. Cornell came up and said, well, we don't want our campus police armed, which, if I'm not mistaken, Cornell is a private university, so they are allowed to do that. Like, if you're on the University of Wisconsin, they actually have state police, state troopers that are relegated to campus security, and they're armed as a regular police officer is, because they're actual regular police officers. They can go off of the campus and do agency assist anywhere else in the state. They have jurisdiction all over the place. They are Wisconsin State Patrol. As a private university, it would be, I guess it would be the chancellor's office and the executive positions that are there that would decide whether or not the campus police would be armed. but I'm sure that there is some student input to this. So the student board said, well, we don't want, some of us don't want to have them armed. Let's put it up to a vote. And apparently there was enough people that put it up to a vote that said, yeah, no, we want them to stay armed just in case. So the solution was get rid of those people and then vote again. Silence the opposition. All right. And that is going to be it for the news. The last thing that we do on a Wednesday is something that I'm thankful for. So, it's Christmas. It's been a crazy year. I've been thankful for the fact that you guys sit up with me every morning. And a lot of you guys are regular, by the way, so I very much appreciate that. But that's going to be the thing that I'm thankful for. I'm thankful for my audience. I know I've used it before, but I am thankful for that. I look back at this past year, and we started this in March. So since March, I've had a regular, and I don't generally, like, I do read live chat, but I don't do it on air, except for the end of the week when I thank everybody for doing this. But I am thankful. I'm thankful that you guys helped me build this show. I'm thankful that I know that some of you will be here on Friday, in spite of the fact that it's Christmas, just to come and hang out and have a community. You guys have built a community. I'm very thankful for the fact, and it makes me feel good to bring people together. So thank you for making 2020 what it was for me, for the Freedom Scoop Network. And I see a lot of you guys going off onto other Freedom Scoop shows. And make sure you check out all the rest of those shows. The Daily Ignoramus, the Freckles and Brit Show, the Generational Gap, the Breakdown with Birkenhoff, the R-Rated Conservative. Great shows with great people who have agreed to come in and help build this network. But I'm thankful right now for the audience, the people who will come up, who will throw lemons at me, who will help me get to where I need to go, who will throw a little bit into the computer fund to help me build a new laptop so I can make a better show for you guys, to help me get into the real estate career that, well, not necessarily the career that I want, but the one that will help me build this business even further. Thank you guys for all that you've done, all the chats that you've done, all the times that you've gone in the Discord, thrown me an article that I could or couldn't use, whether or not it was green check verified or whether or not I could verify it with multiple sources. Every little bit of contribution you guys do helps out this show and helps me make a better show for you. This is the people's show, so thank you guys for that. We will be back here tomorrow, hopefully with not as much news, but I know that we're going to have to talk a little bit about this stimulus deal and the government running out of money shortly after Christmas. We've got a lot to talk about for that. I know there's going to be more, so hope to see you there. We'll do something a little bit lighter, though, because it's going to be Christmas Eve. And then I will be off to my parents' house, and we will be back here for Christmas morning for a brief show and some calls and some hangouts. So, looking forward to that. Looking forward to seeing you there. Until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is one last announcement. Because tomorrow's Christmas Eve, and I'm going to my mom and dad's house as soon as I get off work tomorrow, for obvious reasons, there's not going to be any game stream tomorrow, too. So, we will see you then. Until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary.